What's going on, guys? My name is Renegade. Today we're here to take a look at STONECRUSHER versus ARCHPALADIN class for soloing. We're going to be taking a look at these classes exclusively for soloing, so both these classes have support-based elements, but we're not going to be comparing them for those specific things. We're just going to be comparing the two of them. We're going to be evaluating the two of the classes briefly, and then drawing conclusions on which class is actually a better soloing class. Now, when we do come to our conclusion, it'll be based off of purely how strong these classes are. In my conclusions, I will mention, though, which class is easier to get and if that plays a factor. But the overall conclusion, the winner of this comparison, is going to be based off of which class is a better soloing class. So we'll talk about STONECRUSHER first up here. Now, STONECRUSHER is a really good soloing class, rather. For soloing, its main strength is its pure damage output. Its damage output is ridiculous. So how it does most of its damage is through DOT. Now, you apply your last ability, and it does pretty good damage. It says massive damage, and it does get some pretty good crits sometimes, but you're mainly looking at that ability for its DOT. Now, it applies a ability called Aftershock, which is a damage over time that grows stronger with every attack that hits your opponent for 30 seconds. And you can loop it over and over again. The cooldown on the ability is 30 seconds long. However, you can use the other abilities in the class to reduce cooldowns, so you can actually loop that with time to spare. So it actually has a 25% chance to apply Magnitude for 2 seconds as well. We're talking about the last ability here. And if Magnitude is applied, the target becomes caught in a sinkhole, which reduces their crit rate and haste by 40% for 8 seconds. So you do actually get some pretty good survivability things in there. Now, I'm not going to talk about every ability in depth, but there are various survivability effects. The first ability, it's just a damage output ability pretty much, but it does actually apply an effect called Bruised, which increases all incoming damage by 8% for 8 seconds to the target. And that stacks up to 5 times. Just every ability in the class it contributes to the survivability. Every ability can actually apply Magnitude, which affects the survivability of the class in some way. Like I said before, there's a mana reduction ability, and this also increases your haste. It doesn't reduce the mana. It does have a chance to reduce the mana consumption, but it increases your haste, which then reduces your cooldowns. And then there's another ability which is a HOT, and then the Magnitude on the HOT makes it has a chance to make your HOT stronger on yourself. But that's pretty much STONECRUSHER in a nutshell. I will have gameplay in the background so you can get a better gist of it. Also, I do have a How Good Is video on that I'll leave linked down below as well if you guys want to have a full in-depth review of that class. Now we'll talk about ARCHPALADIN. So ARCHPALADIN came out pretty recently, and it is a really good soloing class. So how ARCHPALADIN works is it deals most of its damage from I'd say it's DOTs. I'd say it's probably 50-50 split. Now, how it works is you use an ability called Commandment, and that ability you just stack over and over and over and over and over again. It stacks up to 50 times, and each time you stack it, your opponent is commanded by the light. That's how the class brands itself. And your opponent has 2% less damage, 2% less dodge chance, 2% less crit chance, 2% less crit amount, 2% less hit chance, and they take 2% more damage, and that's per stack. So each of those effects can go up to 100% in total. Now, this effect lasts 100 seconds, and it puts on a small DOT that stacks up a little bit. Now, the DOT goes to about 500, and so it does get pretty high, and it does get pretty good. So you do actually end up dealing quite a bit of damage from your DOT. But regardless, this commandment is all for one purpose, pretty much. I'd say it's for one purpose, or two purposes. One, you get 100% more damage dealt, so it doubles your damage by the end of the 50 stacks. And two, Sacred Magic Eden, the last ability, deals massive damage buffed by the stacks of commandment, capping out at 5 stacks. Now, this consumes your stacks of commandment, but it doesn't only just get affected by 5 stacks of commandment. Again, that double damage thing comes into play, and you can deal 50k crits with Sacred Magic Eden. It's a really powerful ability, really strong for soloing. It's just kind of hit and miss. You know, I hate using a class to solo when 50% of the time you might get 20k non-crit, or 50% of the time you might get a 50k non-crit, and that's such a huge damage gap. Now, I'm not knocking the class here. It's just that's a weak point of the class. It's kind of unreliable. Now, it does make up for that in the sense that once you got those stacks of commandment up, everything in the class just deals really good damage. Now, the survivability is also really, really good. You've got a heal ability, just a traditional heal ability that applies endurance and defense increased by 20% for 6 seconds as well as the heal. The heal is about 1800 non-crit, so you don't have to worry about health for a long time after you use the heal, and it does have a 10-second cooldown. Mana issues are pretty much non-existent, especially after using the commandment ability like 20 times. And by the way, commandment has a 5-second cooldown and it consumes 10 mana, so you don't have to worry about like stacking that. Now, the most interesting part of this class that really does sort of put icing on the cake in terms of survivability is its ability called Righteous Seal. Now, what this ability does is it reduces your damage that you do by 50%, but it reduces your opponent's damage by 90%. So if you're fighting the Blood Titan and you got to be like, shit, he's gonna do his Blood Rage and I need some health, I'm gonna die from this. Pop Righteous Seal, and bam, he's doing like 90% less damage. So, really, really strong for survivability. This class, it's really, really insanely good for survivability, and its damage output, it's actually pretty decent as well. Now, when I originally set up to this video, I didn't really think there'd be much of a difference between these two classes, and I've tried to portray that sort of mentality throughout this video so far. But I'm just going to read you the numbers. So, fighting King Cole, I used, well, not King Cole, the Frost King. I use that as an example because he's got a lot of health. He's got 116k health, but he doesn't hit too hard back. So it sort of allows for those classes that don't have really good survivability to have a chance. And classes that do have good survivability, well, I mean, if they both have really good survivability, then I just put them up against King Cole. And if they both don't have good survivability, then I put them up against Blood Titan. But they both, in this case, both of them have excellent survivability, so I just put them up against King Cole. And the numbers are, ARCHPALADIN did it in what I thought was a pretty speedy time. It's not too long, of 3 minutes 12 seconds. And then STONECRUSHER came along and truly showed why it's the best class in the end, why it's the best soloing class in the game. Maybe Legion Paladin's better. Not Legion, fuck, what am I saying? Legion Doom Knight's better. So many goddamn fucking Legion items. STONECRUSHER did it in a total of 1 minute 38. So, for all intents and purposes, STONECRUSHER did it doubly quick. And at the end of the day, soloing is about doing the battle quicker. So I think it's obvious the title here goes out to STONECRUSHER. However, STONECRUSHER is an interesting class. It's more fun to use than a lot of other classes in the game, but it doesn't have shit on ARCHPALADIN. ARCHPALADIN is super fun to use. It's really unique, and it's a birthday class, and it's easier to get. STONECRUSHER is a tier 2 class, and ARCHPALADIN isn't. STONECRUSHER is like, it's a lot faster than ARCHPALADIN. It doesn't even come close. I mean, people were asking for this comparison. I didn't actually think that it would be this different, but yeah, unfortunately for ARCHPALADIN, STONECRUSHER has taken the title here. By the way, those times I mentioned, the times it took to kill the Frost King, those were times averaged out from five battles with the King Cole, Frost King, whatever his name is. I got the 5 times, I added them together and divided them by 10, and that gave us the median. And yeah, just a way of making it so any like little errors in there or something like that were all flattened out. But yeah, that's going to be it for a video, guys. I hope you guys did enjoy. If you did, leave a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.